Good morning, Bucknutters. Happy President's Day. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 on Monday, February 15th, 2016. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Bucknuts columnist Brandon Castel. Brandon, good morning to you.
Good morning, Dave. How you doing, bud?
Doing very well. You know, it's obviously rare that the Buckeyes sign JUCO players. They, of course, did in their 2016 recruiting class when they landed offensive tackle Malcolm Pridgeon. Urban Meyer said on signing day that Pridgeon, quote, has a good chance to be Ohio State's starting right tackle this fall. Pridgeon, he comes ready-made size-wise, Brandon, 6'8", 315 pounds, will not enroll at Ohio State until June. BCast, he has a very interesting background. We will touch on that in a moment. But as we sit here right now, do you think Pridgeon will be the Buckeyes starting right tackle this year?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. It was interesting when Urban Meyer said that because you don't expect that kind of a comment about a kid, who hasn't even enrolled yet, who's coming in, with kind of no real background of playing at the college level, obviously junior college. But, yeah, I don't know that I could come out and say that I think he'll be the starting right tackle yet. I just haven't seen enough. I don't think I know enough. Now, his measurements jump off the page. Obviously you mentioned his size, but if you read any of the quotes or if you look at any of the videos, I mean, the kid just looks the part. He's got these long arms, he's big, he's athletic. He seems to have all the tools that you look for in a big-time tackle. Basically everybody who's encountered him has said this is a kid you need to be aware of. I know early on in his recruitment out of high school that there were coaches kind of just coming in from all angles to get a look at this kid because he was such a physical specimen. So, obviously attracting the attention of schools like Ohio State, Alabama, things like that. That this kid has talent. I'm a little hesitant to pencil him in as a starter when he's coming in to a situation where, he's got to get his feet wet. He's not getting in until June. He's got to get settled into the college environment. It's just going to be a lot of transitions happening at once. I think if he were coming in for spring ball, it'd be a lot easier to say that. I guess I don't really know who that guy is, whether it's going to be, DeMarco Jones or whatever they're going to do at that right tackle spot. Kind of wait and see. But, the fact he's not going to be there for spring ball, I'm a little hesitant to put him in that spot. But I think he's going to be in the conversation during fall camp for sure.
As mentioned, very interesting background for this young man. Very easy to root for him. One of our loyal listeners to the Bucknuts Morning 5, Walt Sears, posted a link to our message board over the weekend about all of this. This all came from a newspaper on Long Island, New York, where Pridgeon hails from. And this is a young man, Brandon, who lost his father when he was 11 years old to a heart attack. Then a few years later, his mother had a stroke, has been in a nursing home ever since. Malcolm often had to walk 4 miles to get to high school football practice. He didn't have the grades to go to a 4-year university out of high school, so he went the JUCO route. He now takes school very seriously, is on track to get his associate's degree this May. He visits his mother at least once a week at the nursing home, and it's his goal to make the NFL one day so he can take care of her. It's easy to root for any Buckeye, Brandon. It's really, really easy to root for this kid.
No question, absolutely. I mean, just a crazy story. You feel for the kid, for his family. Having to go through all of that at such a young age, it's hard to imagine, how quickly you have to grow up. And, so I think to me, not only do you root for the kid, but you almost got to believe in the kid because he's going to want it. He's going to work for it. That, he's passionate about it, that he's coming in with that edge of being a guy who's had to grow up a lot quicker than some of these other kids. And, maybe they come from different backgrounds, and it's not abnormal to have kids come into these situations where they've had some hardship as a kid, but to lose your father and to have your mother in the nursing home is pretty intense for a teenager to go through. So you admire him for getting into the 2-year university and kind of getting his grades straightened out, getting his academics where they need to be to enroll at a place like Ohio State. And so I'm absolutely excited to see this kid because I think you're going to see him play with a different level of passion, knowing what he's playing for. I mean, knowing that you're talking about a kid who, like you said, would go visit his mom every week in the nursing home. I mean, that's a different level of adversity to overcome for a kid. So, absolutely rooting for him. I think everybody is. So it'll be interesting to see, if he can come in and make an impact. But, obviously he's got the size, he's got the tools, so it'll be great to see this kid have some success.
Another young man we're all rooting for, of course, Braxton Miller. It's interesting reading all of the NFL scouting reports and all of the mock drafts and just anything people say about Braxton Miller, who do this for a living. He's a very polarizing prospect, Brandon. I think, he really caught fire at the Senior Bowl, and his stock was on the rise, and I don't think it's dropping by any means. But you do have people saying he's going to be a first-round pick. Then you have people saying second-round pick. Now I'm even hearing he could be a third-round pick. Some people say he's going to be a starting slot receiver in the NFL, if not right away, eventually. Other people say he's going to be more of a gadget player in the NFL. Just your take on Braxton Miller being a polarizing prospect, and where do you think he will go in the draft, round-wise?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do think it's fair that he is a polarizing prospect. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was a quarterback, who moved to receiver and has played 1 year at the position, didn't put up huge numbers at Ohio State. And Ohio State fans, we all know, anyone who's followed the program, fans who have followed the program, everybody who's been around Ohio State, they understand why Braxton Miller didn't have 90 catches and 1,100 yards this season. That wasn't a realistic opportunity for him in this offense with Ezekiel Elliott and Michael Thomas and Jalen Marshall and some of the other guys who were going to get the football. And so it's no surprise. I mean, I think, you read the scouting reports and everybody has seen what we've seen. It's a guy with incredible athleticism, a guy with tremendous top-end speed, who can make people miss in the open field, who actually does have a rare ability to locate the ball, great judgment when the ball's in the air, has shown good hands. But it's going to come down to, route running. Can he, and that seems to be the big knock on him right now. And if you go back and watch some of the games during the season, that was really, to me, one of the big reasons he wasn't a bigger factor was his routes just weren't, to me, as crisp as some of the guys who've been playing the position for a while. He tended to round out his routes. He didn't really have a lot of double moves, in my opinion. He kind of relied on that straight line speed and just the fact that he's always been more athletic than everybody else. So what I saw in the Senior Bowl and in the Senior Bowl practices was a guy who was making defensive backs fall all over themselves on the field. So the potential to me is incredible if he can put those kind of moves, on some of the better senior defensive backs in the country. There's no question that there's going to be a team that's going to be high on this kid. He's got to get some of that traditional NFL routes straightened out. I don't think he's anywhere near where he needs to be at that level. So I think you're looking at a 2-3 year projection for where this guy could be. But I think someone's going to see a lot of potential. I think what hurts a little bit is not having that special teams aspect. He did return punts and kicks and things like that in the Senior Bowl, and he did a little bit in camp. But I think, usually those slot guys, those Percy Harvin type guys in the NFL, that they're a guy that can make an impact on special teams. So I think that's where if a team sees Braxton as a guy who can make a big impact on special teams, I could see him going second round. I don't see him as a first-round pick. I just think teams have too many needs, and when they get to that pick, it's going to be hard to roll the dice on Braxton. But I think I could see a team that's maybe a playoff contender late in the second round taking a flyer, early third round. But I think he'll end up on a team that really wants to see this guy develop over the next 2-3 years.
I agree 100%. I do not think he'll be a first rounder. I hope I'm wrong. I think he'll be a second rounder, early third round at the very latest. So we obviously wish Braxton Miller well. Cardale Jones, same deal. Not many people are talking about him. A lot of people are talking about Braxton. I find the whole Cardale situation very interesting. Where do you think he'll go in the draft, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, similar in the sense that freakish abilities. Braxton obviously freakish physically in his foot speed and his acceleration and agility, and Cardale with his size and his ability to throw the football down the field. He's a rare prospect. There are not many guys coming out of the college game that have his size, that have his arm, that have his ability, and that have played in games like he's played in, that, winning games against Alabama and winning games against Oregon and against Wisconsin in three of the biggest games that, any kid will ever play in. So I think there's going to be some intrigue. Certainly a lot of concern, I think, from teams that watched him play this season. I don't know that he was set up entirely for success. I think, having to look over his shoulder at J.T. Barrett and kind of feeling like any mistake he made. But early in the season, it was clear that, as defenses had time to prepare for him, they could kind of get him to take some chances down the field that maybe he shouldn't have taken. So I think it's going to be the mental aspect. It's going to be the accuracy, the ability to read a defense. Those are the things that separate, the good NFL quarterbacks from the guys who don't make it. You look at a good guy like Jamarcus Russell, certainly not a comparison that I would make, but, big guy, big arm. No one's going to argue his talent, but couldn't read a defense, wasn't able to be that guy. I do think that some team will want to take a flyer on Cardale because if you run the right offense and you're looking for a guy who can make plays down the field, which is what the NFL has really become, that ability to make those big plays down the field, having a go-get-it guy, an Odell Beckham or Des Bryant or some, Julio Jones, somebody that can go make a play down the field, watching a guy like Cam Newton, watching a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, these big guys, that's really, it's gone away from the Johnny Manziels and the little guys who are scrambling around trying to make plays with their legs. To really being back to that traditional pocket passer. Look at Carson Palmer did this year in Arizona was that had an incredible season. So, I think you're probably looking at a 3rd round pick for Cardale, but it wouldn't be surprising if somebody said, hey, I really think this kid with some time to develop behind a veteran could come in and be a big time player. You hope that he gets that chance, maybe like a Brock Osweiler to sit behind one of the guys who's done it really well in the league and learn and not have that pressure. I think the worst thing for Cardale would be to go to a team that's going to put pressure on him to jump in and play early in his career.
Yeah, that'd be perfect for him. 3rd round, no pressure. You don't come in as a savior. You come in as kind of, a guy that maybe high ceiling and maybe a low floor. And there's not a lot of pressure from the fan base. You and I are huge NFL fans. 3rd round, it's still a high pick, but it's one thing to be a 1st round bust or a 2nd round bust. 3rd round, that's more of a 50-50 deal at best. Maybe more like 40-60. So I'm with you. Hopefully Cardale goes to the 3rd round. I think that'd be great. I hope he doesn't slip to the 4th or 5th. I think you're on point there. Go ahead.
That's what I was going to say, Dave. I think 3rd round will be a great spot because in the 3rd round, teams are still committed to you. They're still saying, hey, we're going to invest a high draft pick in Cardale Jones because we believe he could be the future. We believe he's worth developing. We believe he's got enough talent to take a shot. If he slides into the 4th, 5th round, still may have that opportunity, but teams are less committed to those guys. They tend to kind of jump onto the next thing and the next thing as they get down and later into the draft. So, my hope for Cardale is if he can go 3rd round, then you've got a team that maybe says, hey, we're gonna really develop this guy over the next 2-3 years and see what he's got.
Still and always undefeated as Ohio State starting quarterback, 10-0, and you never take that away from him, including a little something called the National Championship. As Jerry Emig has pointed out, SID, that there's been a couple guys that have been 1-0, 2-0 as Ohio State starting quarterback. Nobody is in double digits and undefeated as Ohio State's starting quarterback. So Cardale, he'll always be a legend to some degree in Buckeye Nation, so I'm hoping for the best for him. Last topic here, Brandon, Ohio State basketball. They won at Rutgers on Saturday, 79-69, hapless Rutgers. Career high 24 points and 14 rebounds from sophomore forward Keita Bates-Diop, which was very good to see. Buckeyes now 16-10 on the season, 8-5 in Big Ten play. They will host Michigan tomorrow night, Tuesday night at 7, in a game that will be televised by ESPN. Brandon, Buckeyes have an RPI ranking around 70, 80. What's your take on these guys?
Honestly, it's been frustrating to watch them this season because just when you think they're about to turn the corner and they come out and play really well, and look like they might be ready to kind of grow up a little bit and take that next step, they seem to take a big step backwards, the next couple games. So, they've got a couple back-to-back wins now against Northwestern and Rutgers, but to me, that doesn't really tell me much. It's a weird position to be in where you've got 5 games left in the season and the regular season, and we still don't really know this team at all. I feel like you can't really assume anything going into Tuesday night of what you think this team is going to do, except that you can probably assume someone's going to come out and play well, and someone we thought maybe would come out and build on how they've been playing is going to come out and not play well. And so, I think that's been the frustrating thing is you get a big game from, KBD, you get a big game from Jayshawn Tate, and then you get nothing out of Jaquan Lyle, or you get a complete zero goose egg for Mark Loving. I think it's kind of frustrating, I think, for Coach Mata, I'm sure, and for the fans to see, a lot of young talent that just, in my opinion, can't seem to kind of come together and find that chemistry, find that ability to kind of play off each other. I'm worried about their chances. Obviously they have an opportunity even with where they're at in the season. They can absolutely make a statement to get in this thing over the last 5 games because of who they play. They've got Michigan, they've got the game at Nebraska, but then they close out Michigan, Michigan State, Iowa, and then at Michigan State the last 3 games of the year. So I don't have a lot of hope that they're going to play well or that they're going to come away with victories in those games, but the opportunity's there. If they could put it together, but this team more reminds me of kind of that young team with, Evan Turner and Costa and Diebler. They just couldn't quite find it until it was too late. If these guys can figure it out, I think next year they could have some real success. But this year, I think it's a little too late in the game.
Yeah, maybe these guys will end up being NIT champions like Evan Turner and those guys were Evan Turner's freshman year. So we'll see what happens. But maybe that'll be I think it's always better to make the NCAA tournament, even if you're one and done. People say maybe it'll be best for this team to make the NIT and go deep in the NIT. I understand what they're saying, but in my opinion, it's always better to make the big dance even if you're one and done. We'll see what happens, but I'm with you. It's going to take almost a miracle for these guys to get in. But next year, I'm still very bullish on this team. I think they can be not just good, but great next year. Hopefully they can get a graduate transfer, a JUCO transfer, or somebody to round out the roster next year. But thank you very much to Brandon Castel. Great stuff as always out of BCast. You can catch his column every week on Bucknuts, Inside the Brain of BCast. He's also all over the Front Row message board. You can follow him on Twitter. Brandon, what's your handle on Twitter?
BCast Ohio.
At BCast Ohio. Follow him on Twitter at BCast Ohio. Give us a follow at Bucknuts247 as well. Again, Bucknuts247. Thank you again, Brandon. I appreciate you. I appreciate the listeners out there. Hope you guys have a great day. Play that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.